2,100 retail stores across the US. But
Yeah.
obviously, you don't want to be mass market like them. You want to stay in that premium, more rarefied category. Are all of your stores corporate owned? And do you expect that to stay the case when you reach that 5-year goal?
Yeah, so all of our stores are God goodness, I can't speak, corporate owned, except for the two that are licensed in Caesar. So we will look at some licensed concepts, but in terms of franchising, we're not entertaining that right now. We are really focusing and thinking about the corporate owned model as we continue to grow.
Tillamook is one of Oregon's most iconic food brands. Many of you might have their cheeses in your homes. They've talked very openly about how difficult it is to get their ice cream products east of the Mississippi. You have cold chain distribution costs, spoilage. You're doing it. Obviously, they're a cheese company. We've seen the example with Edie's/Dryers. What did Salt and Straw have to crack that some others haven't done? And what are some of those lessons that you've learned that you've taken forward?
Well, for us, it is really an interesting company because we manufacture our ice cream. We have multi-unit, 55 shops, and we also distribute it. So from the perspective that we are controlling the supply chain, it is really helpful for us in the distribution side that we can really be interacting with the shops on a very regular, daily, real-time basis. And so some of the market trends could be a little different for some of the ice cream. There might be a preference more in Portland for some of the more seasonal flavors and maybe a little bit different in Florida. So the fact that we are really working so closely with the shops on the distribution side gives us the opportunity to push where we know that the shops need it because we have this early and regular access to the inventory, and we can see quickly where consumption is driving and where shops might need some additional product.
So being really nimble with that demand.
Absolutely.
Staying on the supply chain, you recently announced that you're finally entering grocery, which you had kind of, not done for a while. And it's coming with a new product, which makes me salivate, the Toclet. Explain what that is. And we'll get into some of the supply chain questions. And in addition, you announced that you will be rolling out half pints, which it sounds expensive from a supply chain perspective. So kind of walk us through those decisions.
Absolutely. So we are really focused on bringing new novelty concepts into CPG. We've had an opportunity to enter into grocery for quite a long time, but we wanted to make sure that when we did enter that market, we were showing up with something that was really interesting to our guests. And so we had created the Toclet quite some time ago in the Portland markets, and we made them by hand. And so you would have it's essentially very similar to a chocolate taco. So it's a wafer that's in the shape of a taco. And then there's ancho chili ice cream with a little bit of spice in there, not too much of a kick, but a little bit. And then it's covered with chocolate.
And you also have sauces that come along with it to kind of continue that partnership with Taco Bell, right?
Yes, exactly. So you have sauces that you can put on top to flavor packets that you can put on top. So
from a product perspective, it sounds fantastic, but even having those individual sauce packets and all of that sounds expensive as the half pint. So at what point, you as CFO, do you make that decision that, this is worth the investment? What are some of the factors you consider?
Sure. So in terms of the novelty with the Toclet, that is a high growth category. So for us, it really does make a lot of sense to move in. There's a lot of opportunity. There isn't a lot of innovation, and Salt and Straw's foundation really is innovation and very culinary forward products. So for us, this feels like a really exciting opportunity that we can bring something to the market that didn't already exist. And so similarly with the half pints, that was a format that we wanted to test out because often we feel like we contemplate a pint as something you wouldn't eat by yourself. Maybe sometimes you find you've eaten 3/4 of it and you think, oh no, you put it in the freezer. So this is really just the opportunity to give folks that opportunity to say, hey, you can go ahead and you can have this half pint and you can grab a couple and really try out different flavors and see that really gets at the heart of Salt and Straw as well. Is like it encourages folks to grab a few different flavors.
Get guilt-free also. Let's talk a little bit about, we love that, personnel and culture at scale. Salt and Straw has a very distinct culture, which you've spoken about, handcrafted product, local ingredients, real storytelling. How do you hire and train at scale without diluting what makes a customer feel special when they walk into a store? And we know some of those stores have lines, like blocks of lines. And I know that you've spoken about regional, the regional quirks are really important as well.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, and that's just foundational to the company. It's really on the forefront of the founders of every department as we think about our expansion. So it's really critical in the hiring that we are finding and working with folks that are just passionate about what they're doing in terms of offering ice cream, but just passionate about hospitality, passionate about creating a guest experience that is really memorable and that it makes that we're clear that the guests are feeling connected and comfortable when they walk into the shop, because we really want that to be a community gathering place. And so it really goes to the hiring and the training of our team members.
For the CFOs and finance leaders watching, what is the metric or operational signal you watch most closely to know that a new location is actually working? What does success look like, let's say, month 6?
Sure. The primary statistic that I'm watching is really actual sales versus forecasted. So we go into a market, we have an understanding of where we expect that particular market to land given the location. And so we're really closely watching that. And then the corollary to it is, I'm always going to dig in further into the details. So what's driving it? What do transactions look like? What does the average ticket size look like? And then over time, labor will pull down a little bit. So what is the pace at which that is kind of pulling down as the guests or the scoopers are more comfortable with their new positions?
And you're growing in a challenging consumer environment. Premium ice cream is considered as a considered purchase, and people are watching their wallets these days. What is the hardest strategic tension that you're managing right now?
I mean, that's a great question. Obviously we're all facing challenges right now in this market, and I would say I sound like I'm continuing to say the same thing, but I do think that Salt and Straw is very clear on its foundational basis, and it really is just offering guests an incredible experience when they walk in. And so if we're not able to deliver on that, it's not going to feel good to our guests. But if our guests are walking in and they've made that decision and they're able to enjoy a really innovative product, they're able to taste 6 different samples if they like, they're able to learn a lot. It's almost like our scoopers or sommeliers. We really want our guests to go in and get an experience when they walk in. And so as long as we're delivering that, we feel like the guests have spent their money in a way that they can feel good about and want to return.
I like that comparison to a sommelier. Before we get to our panel, a reminder to everyone, if you are watching live on LinkedIn, YouTube, Apple, Spotify, drop your questions into the chat. We'll put the best ones on live. Now, let's get to our panel. These are people on the front lines of real estate strategy with C-suite leaders every single day. And I know they've been listening and watching closely. One question each. Clark, you're first. I believe you have something to say about Chicago.
Yeah, would love for you all to open a location out here. Fulton Market, it's like really the work, play, live part of the city. A lot of the new restaurants are going to this part of the city. Office buildings, a lot of apartment buildings have been going up. How do you manage thinking that you might want to be in that location, but maybe some competitors are already in that area? Maybe there's a Jenny's Ice Cream or Baskin Robbins. Does this eliminate like a smaller work, play, live area that seems like an obvious great place to be? Or would that eliminate that as a potential retail option and you might focus on, say the suburbs and more of like a shopping centric area? I guess, how does that play into your decision making about where to be located in new markets?
Yeah, that's a good question. I mean, we are certainly aware of competitors. I wouldn't say we'd entirely shy away, but we are certainly aware of that. That does come into play. And we're talking about, radiuses. And so what can get comfortable within a certain radius. But we do take that to an account. And I'd say we really cast a wide net. We're not focusing on in a very specific region and that's it. We cast a wide net when we're looking for different locations, and that gives us flexibility so that we can ensure that we are patient and we're waiting for a spot that works very well for what we're looking for in that specific area. And we don't run into a location because we feel pressured or we need to. We're able to be patient and wait for those best spots. But tell us where to go in Chicago. We're listening. So we'll always take insight.
Sounds great.
Thanks so much, Clark. Kayla, you are in Portland, Salt and Straw's home turf. Tell us your question.
As someone who's been able to watch Salt and Straw grow from the beginning, we've seen companies lose some of their identity or have growing pains when they grow too fast. So My question is, have you experienced growing pains firsthand as you've grown rapidly across the US? And have there been any occasions where you've held off on growth or run into a deal breaker?
I mean, I think to some degree our growth has been measured. I mean, when I say 20 to 25%, that is not a small number in terms of annual growth, but I think we've been measured in that. And it really just goes again to our hiring and our training. It's very tight. We're very deliberate in how we train. And then also in terms of identity, when we go to new locations, we really look to partner with that specific area. So we recently opened shops in both Dallas and Fort Worth. And we did a collaboration with Frito-Lay, a brand that's been in the region for over 100 years. It's beloved. And we did a sundae. So it's just really fun to do a Frito-Lay sundae, and really just partnering. We always partner with local community organizations and nonprofits. So when we do, and that's foundational to our company. So it all feels very authentic as we're moving forward. We're holding on to our foundational core, but we're also trying to integrate within the community and work in a way that meets best for that local region.
Thanks so much, Kayla. Jamie, we'll give you your turn from Phoenix.
Hi, Carissa. So obviously Phoenix is part of like the Sun Belt. We've seen like huge growth opportunities like in COVID and coming out of COVID. We're seeing a lot of our real estate change, whether it's office, retail, multifamily, and everybody's getting along and kind of coming together now and being friends. Well, you know, we're lucky enough in Phoenix that you guys have expanded 3 locations. Can you just give us some insight into, like, for example, you guys decide you want to come to a Sunbelt state, you want to come to Phoenix. What's that internal process? Is it somebody lived in Scottsdale, Arizona at one point, has insight? Is there is there a team internally? Like, what does that look like when you're expanding brand new into a new city and state?
Yeah, that's a great question. So, I mean, we do have an expanded team that is looking. We have a real estate development team with very strong experience nationwide. And so that's critical in this decision-making process. But the co-founders, Kim and Tyler, they're involved heavily in every decision. And so we will be simultaneously looking at many markets, but there are a lot of market orders that go in the process of developing a new market and looking and seeing where we should go. There are many visits, like I said, late night visits, between the 7 to 10 p.m. range, going during the day. And also obviously supported by a lot of data and analytics, but a lot of boots on the ground and making sure that we're comfortable before we jump in.
Thanks, Jamie, for your question. And we are opening it up right now. If you're watching live on LinkedIn, YouTube, Apple, or Spotify, drop your questions into the chat right now. We'll put the best ones live. I see Teresa has a question. Teresa, would you like to ask your question live? We'll wait for a second. If not, I'll read what you wrote in the chat.
Sure. Hi, Teresa Hegdahl. I'm just curious, when you think about the restaurant operating model and scaling, how do you think about the business drivers and where you allocate the investment really to drive sales in terms of operations, marketing, technology? How do you think about that?
Well, I mean, so as we're approaching this 25% growth, or 20 to 25, I mean, we are obviously spending a great deal on the operations side. So we're investing in the new shops and currently really thinking about the technology piece, ensuring that technology is growing at such an incredible pace. So ensuring that we are investing and supporting our operations in terms of up-to-date labor so that they can make the best choices around labor. Also, we talked about the logistics and inventory. There's a lot of opportunities to really, we can use different technology to improve and make those decisions even more quickly. So I say we're really leaning into the technology side, but we are incredibly aware and supportive of the ops team that we need to support them and make sure that we are meeting the needs so that we can provide the best service possible. So really supporting that ops team.
Thank you so much, Teresa. And while we're waiting for others to chime in on their questions, again, put them directly into the chat. But Carissa, I'll ask you, I know we have spoken about, going back to that real estate bucket, the importance of patience. Can you describe how patience factors in to your strategy on new store expansion?
Yeah, absolutely. So again, because we're not focusing entirely on specific regions, and now at 55 shops, we can do some fill-in, right? So it's a combination of new markets